Hey guys, this is sort of a special video because this is the first of several that will be linked together, all related to childhood and healing your inner child, that kind of topic. But this all kind of started out, for me at least, due to sexuality and exploring partners and getting tangled up with toxic partners, and even also the fetish world and BDSM. All of that, well, problems in all of those realms led me to start healing my inner child. So, as I cover the topics related to healing, I want to start with this sort of background of sort of something that happened to me related to BDSM that led me to see that there's a lot of unhealed people in that sort of realm, and that you can still have those things. You can have kinks and fetishes, but it's important to be healed as you approach a partner that you want to take seriously and explore yourself with in those ways. So this is sort of a background for me, but I think this sort of environment leads a lot of people to start healing, because you start out being kind of excessive with your sexuality, and it leads you to realize maybe you're not as healed as you thought you were. Maybe you just haven't ever tried healing. So I want to go into that as my starter topic, but this is going to lead to several videos on healing your inner child and some very, I don't want to use the word extreme, but some very out there methods I started using to heal in a very primal, physical, real world way, rather than like an armchair psychology way. I think it's almost metaphysical, the level of primal healing you have to do if you are hurt or broken from childhood. So I want to start out with a story that kind of led me to stop enjoying BDSM groups, not necessarily the kinks and fetishes themselves, but just the group aspect of it. And going to, like, if you're familiar with that culture, you know there's something called a munch, which is like a lunch dinner type thing where you go and meet up with groups prior to these more sexual, like house party type events. So a munch is very tame. Everyone's wearing clothes. It's in a public restaurant usually. So starting out, you will go to something like that. You'll get to know people in a group, and eventually you'll wind up at a house party where there's actual, whipping or sex and whatever, depending on the rules. Those sorts of things tend to happen at the house parties. So most people will start out on a website like FetLife. You get into the culture that way, or through a friend, or maybe there's some club event and that's how you get into it. But the end result is usually you're enmeshed in various groups and friend circles that are all very adamant and into the kink culture. But one thing I've noticed, and this all came about from, it's come over time multiple times, but I really felt it in my gut recently. I'll just tell the story and then I'll go on from there. But I went to a sort of exclusive, all these groups try to be exclusive, but I went to an exclusive house party at an event in Austin. It's a couple that throws it, and they have a pretty nice house. They have a very customized hot tub in the backyard. I'm still recovering from COVID that I had the last week and a half, so you'll have to forgive me for coughing a lot. I actually took it pretty well considering it was COVID, but anyways, I went to this house party. The group, at least the couple running the group are wealthy. I don't know about like if everyone there is kind of uppity. It seems like a pretty mixed culture there, which is good. There's a lot of variety, and I don't like high society type stuff, regardless of if it's kinky or not. But I go to the event and it was great overall. I'm not one who's into pain, and I don't generally enjoy things related to pain, whether it's doling it out or receiving it. I mean, and sometimes I'll be aggressive during sexual acts, But in general, I'm not even turned on by pain or seeing anyone suffer or suffering myself. So I'm not super into the culture as it is. I'm more into like submissive behavior and dominant behavior as an act of play between two people who really love each other. In a lot of the couples there, I noticed like there was a guy there who was with someone, obviously both were cheating on their partners and they were there together as a play couple, but they had like legitimate partners somewhere sitting at home, possibly taking care of kids. So just that vibe was disgusting to me off the bat. Um, but it's not even just that. There's just a lot of the culture surrounding kink groups in swinger culture. There is an element of people like instead of handling their inner issues and also the issues between them and a partner, they just swap partners or cheat or and I'm not against polyamory when it's done the correct way, but there's a lot of stuff that was just like shady behind the, curtain. A lot of stuff that just rubbed me the wrong way, just on the surface level. And the more I thought about it, the more I was like, okay, something metaphysically doesn't sit right with me with kink culture anymore. And honestly, never did as far as the groups. There's always like this social hierarchy where there's like some charismatic douchebag running an event. Now, I will say the couple running this event, it's a woman and a man running it that are married and actually not fucking around. The guy's not being charismatic. In fact, he lets his wife handle most of the details. So I will say that this was one group where I didn't see some douchey guy running the show and being charismatic in order to just suck in all the women, which I tend to see in BDSM groups. So I commend them on that. Like I will say the group as a whole is a good group. I just saw shady stuff, that I tend to see anywhere that's BDSM related. Um, but none of that is the main point. I'm just trying to give you guys a feel for what this event was like. It was actually fairly classy. Like I said, it was a nice sort of mansion style house, and everyone remains dressed other than getting down to like underwear to be spanked. So they don't allow genitals to be exposed at this event. They do allow semi-nudity and like breasts can be exposed. I actually got down to just boxers or swimsuit and went into the hot tub to talk to people that I had just met there that were actually being friendly. So, and I'm normally kind of reserved, but I was drinking and I was just kind of like, I'm not doing anything crazy tonight, so I don't mind, getting in the hot tub with people that I vaguely met. But the overall vibe was okay. But the thing that I see a lot in all BDSM groups is people seeking attention, meaning they like to be on public display and they suck in all that attention and energy. So they like, and that's fine. That happens in the normal world too. It's not a BDSM thing. It's just we all want to be loved and accepted. But because there's a sexual element to it, I think it really brings out this competitiveness too. There's a lot of girls competing for attention. The reason I'm bringing this all up is not to just shit on the event or BDSM groups in general. There is a subconscious reason people do this stuff, and it comes from having a broken inner child. So there is a point to everything I'm saying, and that it's all leading to the fact that I'm realizing over time BDSM culture is sort of dodging a hurt inner child. And of course, all this kind of sexual play, even when it's not kink, sexual play is all about exploring yourself and, healing these sort of hidden sides to you and all that. So that's always going to be an element. The psychology of it all is always going to be there. But my point is there seems to be a common theme with BDSM culture of thinking that the play replaces healing. There's even a term in psychology called abreaction, which refers to reliving trauma in a way that sometimes it could be sexual, it could be other ways. but it basically means you keep purposefully putting your body in these situations that mimic childhood trauma because your mind is trying to overcome it and heal from it by repeating it. And oftentimes, when it comes to hardcore BDSM and sex stuff, someone who's becomes hypersexual out of trauma will keep getting with people that like choke them severely during sex, punch them, beat the shit out of them. Like it's all them, it's their subconscious trying to overcome childhood abuse. And it sends your mind into like a climax of euphoria because you are reliving the trauma. And it's like your mind almost sees this as a good thing, but it's not really. You're never healing the trauma. So now in psychology, abreaction means something more specific. It isn't a type of trying to heal through staging these acts. But when I'm talking about it, I mean it in a more derogatory way. It's sort of like you're using kinky sex acts to trigger trauma and you're getting a high or euphoria from it, but then you're never taking it past that point. I think that's my point really, is that in BDSM, it's sort of like you're halfway there. You're almost getting it. You're almost to the point that you're like using this almost metaphysical headspace during sexual play to heal, but they're not. They're stopping halfway there, and then they're thinking that's it. That's the journey. And it's just part of the culture that's just, oh, I just love, the kink part. But people could actually use that to heal all kinds of issues and grow. And there's like a whole metaphysical realm out there that you could take this to that would be beyond that. And I just feel like people are almost missing the point, and the sexuality ends up holding them back. Like even at this event, we were all in the hot tub and there were two guys talking about Aikido because they're both training in that. And one of them started mentioning spiritual stuff almost in a jokey way. I don't know if it wasn't really related to the martial arts. I don't know why. That just is a memory I have of them talking about that. But at some point they were talking about hedonism, I guess, is really how it went. But he said that really famous phrase, which is the path of excess leads to the tower of wisdom. And I had to roll my eyes in private in the corner of the hot tub because it's, once again, the people are missing the point of these sort of the idea of like hedonism and stuff leading to spirituality. It's sort of like if you only stop at the excess part, at the hedonism part, then you're missing the whole point of the message. Like you're never healing spiritually. You're never taking your inner child, elevating it out of this low vibration of pain and suffering and up into this, ethereal realm. So it's like they know the terminology. They sort of know what's going on and they don't ever go past that. And I'm not claiming that I'm not over here being on my high horse. I'm just saying now that I am starting to heal these environments of like hedonism and sexuality and stuff like that, they all are I'm starting to see how broken they are when I used to not see that. And that will lead to other topics, other videos I'm going to do about childhood healing or how to heal your inner child with these bizarre things I've come up with on my own, often with psychedelics as an aid. So this party was I've been to several groups like this in the past, but it's only this recent one where I suddenly just clicked in my mind like, okay, this is not ever gonna be for me. And I don't like these kinds of social groups because something about the vibration as a whole is tugging me backwards and my spirit is trying to go forwards. And so as I thought about it, I was like, well, why does it bother me? Like what is off here? And now I get it. It's because I am healing that inner child that's wounded and I'm surrounding myself with people that aren't. And in fact, they're going the opposite direction backwards. Like there was just so much escapism and just toxicity and stuff. And like I said, the owners of the group are good people. They actually are, they're older, they're more mellow, they actually love each other as a couple. So exploring your sexuality with a person you care about is one thing, but like cheating on two spouses, you know, like there's two married people cheating, and like if you're gonna do all that, at least be on the same page with your spouse, like what you want to do, what you want to explore. And so I don't know, that's a whole side issue. My overall point is that I think people are missing the point with using kink and sexuality and sort of feeling it almost as if they're healing something, but they're not. Even within kink culture, there is that category of being a little, which is sort of acting out childhood behaviors and getting into the headspace of your child self or an alternate version of yourself that's a child. And it's like that's so close to actually healing, but it always stops before that. And it often stops at a more sexual place. Not all littles are doing it sexually. In fact, many of them adamantly will scream that they're not doing it for sexual reasons. So that's not the point I'm making either. I'm just saying there's more deep things that need to be done than just like getting into the headspace of a child and coloring for fun or watching Disney movies or whatever. Like that is a step one of healing the inner child, but it's sort of like people are doing these things and feeling good about it and then stopping. And they could actually go a little further and be fully ingrained in the healing and go beyond. Like, and that's something I realized. It's like, maybe that's the point of those types of things. They're sort of to lure you into healing yourself. Because for me, sexuality was the bait, but it actually led to me healing a lot of things. So I can understand maybe that's sort of how it works. It's hard to say. Everyone's journey is different, and you know, a lot of spiritual teachings will tell you that the world around you is a reflection of your inner self, and everyone's kind of reflecting off each other. So it's like a web of learning that could happen, or you could just choose the hedonistic route and just escape into, you know, drugs and sex forever. So it's, you know, it's really up to each individual. And I struggle with how do I, like in that social setting, how would I talk to people in a way that isn't condescending sounding, but encourages them to use some of what they're doing to start going towards the path of healing? I don't know how you would bring that up. I'm not at a point where I would be confident in trying to do that in that setting. But I just feel like I learned a lot over time as I realized like what was bothering me about the overall culture of these types of social groups. So that's what this video was about. I hope I get over COVID soon for sure. That's one thing. But I hope that this sort of helped introduce people to the concept of, oh, maybe I can take my sexuality and move into the realm of healing. And also just people that are kind of unaware completely, like maybe it'll encourage them to delve deeper than just the play aspects of all that. In the next few videos that are not tarot related, which I do have a tarot deck coming up soon, so look out for that. But in the other more talk oriented videos, I'm going to start talking about how I like radically healed my inner child using things that are off the wall, that you wouldn't just go out in public and tell people you use these techniques because they're a little weird. But I think you need radical things to heal the inner child when it's radically damaged. Like, I don't think just watching a couple of YouTube talks on psychology of the inner child is enough. That's a good start, but I had to do some really crazy things with the help of psychedelics and just general exploration to break through finally and really start healing the emotional damage of the inner child, because some people tend to just talk in their mind about it, like be intellectual about your emotions. But that's not enough. You have to tap into the actual emotions, the raw, primal, inner pain and everything. So I did some special things that helped me actually do that and break through. And those next videos will be about that. I think I'm going to separate them into the individual simplistic things, like actual acts, physical things I did to help, because that way I can really focus each video on those individual aspects instead of cramming it all into one big video. So anyways, hopefully this was helpful as an introduction and also as a sort of what are we doing question towards BDSM and kink culture. It's a culture that will lash out. Luckily, none of those people watch this type of channel really. But I won't be surprised if I get at least one nasty comment about it. But it's because that expression of sexuality becomes their entire identity. It's like kink can become your entire identity once you're ingrained in these groups and stuff. And I think it's because they do feel a sense of healing and therapy from it. And it's a way to express your soul through play, which is a good thing. But I'm just saying they're cutting it short of full healing. There's so much more they could do, and it's just stopping at the fun. But anyways, hopefully it doesn't anger people and they understand that I'm not against that culture. I just see a lot of progress beyond it that needs to happen for each individual. But other than that, I will see you guys on the next video. Bye bye.